Lucy, a psychology student, has always been fascinated by mystery and the unknown. She attended an old local college that, during the day, was a peaceful place of learning, but at night, it took on a dark and enigmatic atmosphere that intrigued her. During his years of study, he had heard scary stories about the college, including rumors that it was haunted by restless spirits. One rainy night, while most of the students were at home or partying, Lucy decided to embark on a solitary adventure to uncover the college's dark secrets. He dressed in dark clothes, put on his hiking boots, and grabbed a flashlight. With courage and determination, she set out to explore what others feared. As he approached the main college building, the rain fell incessantly, adding an atmosphere of gloom to his journey. She was determined to investigate the dark hallways and empty classrooms that came to life only in the imaginations of those who heard stories about the place. Lucy opened the college's front door, and the creak echoed through the empty hallways. The sound of rain hitting the windows and roof added to the feeling of loneliness and mystery. She could feel the peculiar energy of the place, as if the building itself was whispering dark secrets in her ear. As she walked through the halls, Lucy noticed the old portraits of former principals and teachers hanging on the walls. The eyes of the portraits seemed to follow her with an expression of melancholy and disapproval. She thought about the stories she had heard about the college's late principal, who was known for his strict policies and controversial methods. Determined to find out what really happened at the college at night, Lucy continued exploring the silent hallways. Little by little, the feeling of restlessness increased, as if something was watching her every move. Even so, she did not let herself be shaken and continued her search for the unknown. As Lucy passed through a dark room, she heard a low, chilling whisper. He stopped for a moment, his heart beating fast. The whisper seemed to come from inside the room. With flashlight in hand, she cautiously pushed open the door. The room turned out to be a dusty and decaying space. Stacked tables and chairs, old books and faded paintings covered the space. The flashlight's light reflected off the eyes of a stuffed owl perched on a nearby shelf, creating dancing shadows on the walls. In the center of the room, Lucy noticed something that took her breath away, a table covered in black cloth. A single lit candle was burning on top of the table, casting a dim, unstable light over the place. The room seemed untouched by time, as if it had been forgotten for decades. Lucy's curiosity and restlessness led her to the mysterious table. With shaking hands, she pulled back the black cloth and revealed what was hidden beneath it, an ancient Ouija board, with letters and numbers etched into aged wood. The candle on the table began to flicker, and the whispering that Lucy had heard earlier intensified. She felt a chill run down her spine as a whispering, unintelligible voice seemed to echo through the walls. It was clear that the room was permeated with supernatural energy. Without thinking twice, Lucy reached for the Ouija board. From that moment on, she was about to embark on a terrifying journey. Lucy was determined to explore the mystery surrounding the Ouija board in the abandoned college room. With a trembling hand, she placed her fingers on the triangular piece, known as the planchette. The whispering voice in the air seemed to increase in intensity, as if it was eager to communicate. "If there is anyone here, if you can hear me, please respond," Lucy whispered, her voice wavering. The planchette began to move on its own, sliding over the letters and numbers on the board. The words formed were chilling and disturbing. The spirit she was contacting seemed to be aware of her presence and was eager to communicate. "Who are you?" Lucy asked, with a hint of anxiety. The planchette replied, "I was a student here in the 1970 SC. My name was David." David, the spirit, began to tell his story. He explained that at that time, the college was the scene of sinister events and unexplained disappearances. Students and teachers simply disappeared without a trace. David had also been a victim of these events, and his whispering voice was filled with sadness and despair. Lucy continued to ask questions, determined to uncover the truth behind the college's mysterious events. David revealed that, before his disappearance, he and a group of friends were trying to uncover a hidden secret that the college was hiding. They believed there was something supernaturally powerful there and wanted to uncover its mysteries. David's voice continued to whisper, revealing that the group of friends had found the Ouija board and attempted to communicate with spirits. However, something terrible happened that night. An evil presence was summoned, and the spirit that answered its calls was not what it appeared to be. The group of friends panicked when they realized something had gone terribly wrong. The evil presence began to torment them, causing nightmares and terrifying paranormal events. One by one, they disappeared, victims of what seemed like an uncontrollable supernatural force. Lucy became increasingly involved in the disturbing story of David and his missing friends. The spirit begged for help, crying out for justice and the liberation of his soul and those who had been affected by the evil present. As the conversation continued, the candle on the table began to flicker even more brightly, and the room seemed to fill with a dark, oppressive presence. Lucy began to feel a strange sensation that she was being watched, as if she were no longer alone in the room. David revealed that the evil presence, a dark entity, still inhabited the college and was searching for souls to fuel its power. He warned Lucy to be careful, as the danger was closer than she imagined. Determined to face the college's mysteries and help David and the lost souls, Lucy stood up from the Ouija board table. She knew there was a dark journey ahead, full of dangers and hidden secrets. She was no longer exploring out of curiosity. She was committed to the search for truth and justice, even if it led her to face the unknown with courage and determination. After the harrowing night in the old college building, Lucy was immersed in an increasingly intense search for answers. Information provided by David, the tormented spirit, had revealed the existence of a dark entity that continued to haunt the college and cause unexplained disappearances. Lucy's days became a race against time as she delved deeper into research and sought information about the college's history and the sinister events that had occurred in the 1970 set. She spent countless hours in the college's archives, investigating unsolved disappearances and old records. As his search progressed, paranormal events began to occur in his own life. Terrifying nightmares haunted her sleep, and sinister shadows seemed to follow her around college. The feeling that something was constantly watching her didn't leave her alone. Lucy shared her findings with a more experienced professor at the college, Dr. Anderson, who was known for his interest in paranormal phenomena and the occult. Dr. Anderson was intrigued by Lucy's research and offered his help in the search for the truth. Together, they searched the college's archives and discovered that in the 1970s, several students and professors had disappeared without a trace. Witness accounts suggested paranormal events, such as doors that opened and closed on their own, objects that moved in whispering voices. Additionally, there were mentions of a mysterious cult operating in the shadows of the college. While investigating further, Lucy and Dr. Anderson found a diary from one of the missing students. The diary described encounters with the dark entity and the desperate attempt to understand and control its powers. It was clear that the group of students who had found the Ouija board had inadvertently unleashed the evil presence. On a particularly stormy night, Lucy and Dr. Anderson decided to hold a paranormal investigation session in the college building itself. They brought paranormal activity detection equipment and cameras to record any evidence. As they explored the dark corridors, the feeling that something was watching their every move was overwhelming. The rain hitting the windows and the sound of the wind howling seemed to create a perfect setting for the unknown to manifest itself. They entered the room where Lucy had found the Ouija board and began to set up their equipment. The candle on the table burned, casting distorted shadows on the walls. The atmosphere was tense, and Dr. Anderson began asking questions out loud, waiting for the entity to respond. To his surprise, the candle began to flicker more intensely, and a dark presence seemed to fill the room. Paranormal activity detection equipment began giving off strange readings, indicating the presence of supernatural energy. Then, a cold, whispering voice filled the air. It was a voice that seemed to come from beyond death, murmuring incomprehensible and chilling words. Dr. Anderson and Lucy felt chills run down their spines as they tried to understand what the entity was trying to communicate. The room began to shake slightly, and objects began to move on their own. It seemed as if the entity was manifesting itself in a physical way, wanting to be seen and heard. Lucy and Dr. Anderson exchanged worried glances, but continued to record the evidence as the supernatural presence intensified. Paranormal investigation was reaching its peak, and Lucy and Dr. Anderson were about to discover something that would forever change their understanding of the supernatural. The confrontation with the dark entity was becoming inevitable, and the answers they had been searching for were on the verge of being revealed. The college room was immersed in darkness, except for the faint light of the candle that still burned on the table. The unsettling whisper continued, and the shadowy presence seemed more and more tangible. Lucy and Doctor Anderson exchanged nervous glances, but were determined to face whatever was causing these paranormal phenomena. The whispering voice became more audible, forming words in an ancient and unknown language. It was a calling, an invocation that seemed to extend beyond time and space. The room shook slightly, and the atmosphere became electrically charged. Determined to get answers, Lucy and Dr. Anderson turned to paranormal detection equipment. Electronic devices flickered frantically, recording extraordinary supernatural activity. They were about to witness something that would challenge their understanding of reality. Suddenly, the shadows in the room began to stir, forming a hazy, ominous figure. It was a manifestation of the dark entity that haunted the college. A feeling of oppression filled the air, making it difficult to even breathe. The dark figure began to move toward them, an evil, inscrutable presence. Lucy and Dr. Anderson were trapped, unable to retreat as the entity approached. Their faces were pale, but they did not give in to fear. It was time to confront the unknown. Dr. Anderson began reciting an ancient exorcism prayer that he had studied during years of research into the paranormal. The words left his mouth with determination, an attempt to banish the evil entity from his earthly realm. Lucy joined him, reciting the prayer with devotion. The shadowy figure retreated momentarily, emitting guttural, distorted sounds. It appeared that the exorcism was having some effect, but the entity was not ready to give up. She counterattacked with terrible force, causing the room to shake and the candles to go out. In the moment of total darkness, Lucy and Dr. Anderson found themselves surrounded by a demonic presence. A deep and threatening voice echoed in the air, challenging them. The entity was determined not to be expelled so easily. Lucy and Dr. Anderson gathered their strength and continued to recite the exorcism prayer, resisting the fear that threatened to consume them. The battle between good and evil was reaching its climax, with the room vibrating under the pressure of the supernatural conflict. Then, a burst of brilliant light burst into the room, driving away the darkness and the evil entity. The light seemed to have a divine origin, a higher force that intervened to protect Lucy and Dr. Anderson. The entity let out an anguished cry and dissipated, disappearing into the ether. When the light finally dissipated, the room was peaceful and free of the evil presence. Lucy and Dr. Anderson were exhausted but relieved. They had faced the unknown and prevailed. With the threat of the dark entity dispelled, the college was finally free of its sinister influence. The paranormal events stopped, and the feeling of oppression that hung over the place disappeared. Lucy and Dr. Anderson had unraveled the dark mystery of the college and freed the restless souls who'd been affected by the evil presence. At the end of the night, as they left the college building, Lucy looked back, knowing that the battle against the unknown had been won. She was determined to keep the memory of that night alive and to use her knowledge to help others face the mysteries of the paranormal world. The story of college at night with its supernatural presence had come to an end, but the lessons learned by Lucy and Dr. Anderson would endure forever. Their relentless pursuit of the truth and their courage to face the unknown had changed them forever, and they were ready to face whatever mystery the future might bring.